Welcome back, everybody, to the Pokemon Purveyors podcast. This is a weekly podcast where if you like anything investing, collecting, competitive play relating to the Pokemon TCG, then you have come to the right place. My name is Shad, and I am just one of your hosts of this wonderful podcast. By my side, I have, as always, my fellow co-host, Jules. Jules, how you doing, buddy?
Wow, another week, another podcast, guys. I hope you're pumped. I hope you're excited. This is so fun for Shad and I thus far. We are having a blast. I hope you guys are enjoying this as well. I hope you get so much information from this. And what else can we say? We love Pokemon. We enjoy it. We share it with you guys. We share it with each other when Shad and I speak off camera as well. Can't get much better than that. So I hope you guys are enjoying.
And from the sounds of it, it does sound like you guys are enjoying the podcast. We've been getting a lot of good feedback from people within the community, both in on my channel, both on Jules' channel, and both on our growing channel on YouTube as well for the Pokemon Purveyors. So first of all, got to thank all of you for reaching out, showing your support for the channel, commenting on those videos. And just remember, we are looking for those reviews as well. So if you guys like listening to us or watching us on YouTube, be sure to give us a review out on your favorite podcasting platforms as well. But Jules, it's kind of been a little bit of a slow week so far for as far as Pokemon news goes relating to the TCG. But we've got some news that is recent, but it's kind of old news as well. Do you pick up what I'm putting down?
I think so. I think I sense what you're telling me right now.
I'll give you a hint. I think our psychic energy is flowing right now.
I wish I had some spoons or something. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it.
Well, guys, you probably guessed it by now, and you've probably seen it in the news recently, but one of people's favorite Pokemon, Kadabra, may be coming back to the TCG after all these years. Now, for those of you out there that aren't familiar with what we're talking about, over 20 years ago, so really at the very beginning of the TCG, there was a little bit of controversy. There was a lawsuit. And essentially what this boiled down to is at that time, there was a magician by the name of Uri Geller. And he filed a lawsuit against the Pokemon Company for cards that were featuring Kadabra. And he basically stated that the cards not only were similar to his name, because in Japanese, Kadabra is actually called Young Geller. So what's interesting is that the Japanese trio, so Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam, in the Japanese version, their names are similar and kind of a play on words to famous magicians. And so basically, Uri Geller filed a lawsuit basically claiming that the Pokemon Company had used his likeness without his consent. And so filed a lawsuit. Now, this went through several courts, several lawsuits. Essentially, nothing ever really transpired out of it. There was never any payment made or any kind of restitution. But after that, Pokemon really took the back seat on Kadabra and stopped producing his card. And I believe the last set to feature Kadabra was Skyridge. I could be mistaken on that, but I believe it was Skyridge. And we haven't seen a Kadabra card since. And it's mainly around this topic and this big controversy that happened over 20 years ago. So why are we bringing this up? Why are we bringing up this old news? Well, in his Twitter account, Uri Geller basically posted that he was relinquishing his ban on the Kadabra cards and that he was essentially allowing Pokemon to start producing these cards, even though he still feels that they are in his likeness. Now, as far as we know, Pokemon, as of the day that we are recording this, Pokemon has not responded to him. They have not reached out. They have not responded. Supposedly, his request or his letter was picked up by two people at the Pokemon Company, but nothing has yet been done. So we are eagerly awaiting, as I'm sure the entire Pokemon world is eagerly awaiting, as to what will actually transpire and if we'll see Kadabra in the future. So,
Yeah.
Jules, from a collecting standpoint, I mean, I don't have Skyridge. I don't have the Kadabra from Skyridge, but I have all of the other Kadabras. So I'm
Wow.
interested to see from a collector standpoint, is this something that you think will actually, now that we have the potential of seeing more Kadabra cards, do you think that this is something that many collectors are going to want? Is this something that investors are going to be looking for? I'm interested to get your opinion on.
So yeah, for sure. To start, actually, to your point, like you said, the two people at the bottom of the Pokemon building hasn't the letter hasn't reached the top, and thus the Pokemon has not made a statement about it. I'd like to compare that to PSA, right? When the card
Mhm.
gets received at the reception, it stays in the warehouse for a while before anything happens, and then maybe 4 months down the line, that's when you start seeing some sort of movement, or 4, 5, 6 months down the line, you'll see some movement within the PSA network. So it was just funny how you were saying that the two people at the front desk basically received that letter and nothing has made it up to the top. So there's probably a delay in Pokemon getting the letters to the
Mhm.
top floor, to the big marketing people and the representatives of Pokemon for those types of things. I was just wanted to play on that before we started. But the spoons, man, come on, guys. I'm super excited. The reason why I'm super excited is because my favorite card to collect, thus not my favorite Pokemon because it's Venusaur, um, but my favorite card to collect is Alakazam.
Ooh,
Alakazam
yeah.
from base set with the purple, that psychic energy. I don't know what it is. His pose, he looks like he's just like stoic somehow in
Mhm.
that pose that he's making. And without Kadabra, you can't get to Alakazam for me, who's 29 years old and was there at the beginning when Pokemon came out in 1999. And as a kid, you just had a fun time saying Abracadabra Alakazam, and you were like a magician. Boom, right? So that's like the whole part of there was a missing piece. That Kadabra was a missing piece, and now that there's possibilities, like the it's endless for this whole time that's been missing now. I think as a collector, people have been missing Kadabra, and when you're missing something, oh boy, that when that first thing pops out of anything Kadabra related, it's gonna it's gonna flood. I think it's gonna flood, and I think it's gonna be extremely collectible from my perspective.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. I think that just the whole connotation, I mean, this is a 20-year-old thing that has been going on between this magician and the Pokemon Company, and it's sort of ingrained in the minds of old school collectors, from the beginning. So I think now that we have the prospect of this card coming back into the TCG and completing that trio, you've got sets out there that's got Abra and Alakazam, but
Hmm.
no Kadabra. And it's really interesting because, to my knowledge, in the competitive play scene, a lot of the time, Alakazam is put as a basic Pokemon where you don't need those pre evolved forms in order to play his card. So it's kind of strange. And I think that if they actually start including Kadabra into upcoming TCG sets, um, I think that it's definitely going to be something that collectors are looking for, definitely something that investors are looking for. The big question in my mind is, do they actually do it? They've now created so many past sets where they've basically created these cards, especially Alakazam cards, without needing that pre-evolved form, that
Hmm.
Kadabra.
Exactly.
So do they make a change going on? I don't know how difficult it would be. I'm sure it wouldn't be. But also, you kind of have to think of it in terms of the Pokemon company itself. This has probably been kind of a bitter taste in their mouth that they've had for the last 20 years about this whole lawsuit and controversy. Um, so I wonder if they actually, will go through with it and actually put this card in upcoming TCGs. But from an investing standpoint, it's tough because Kadabra is often just an uncommon card at the very most, sometimes even common. So, from an investment standpoint, and for upcoming sets, it's not going to be difficult to come by if they put it in there. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I mean, you can even look back at the older WotC sets. I mean, those Kadabras, they're not that valuable. So even with the controversy and everything surrounded around it, it hasn't really created that kind of connotation that has created this hype. You know what I mean? So I think for the most part, it's just going to be more of appeasement for people who are playing, people who are collecting, just having the joy of seeing this Pokemon back in the TCG after all of these years.
Like the diehard
But
fans, the ones from the beginning, you know?
exactly, exactly. Just being able to see them again, I think, and what it may do, it may not necessarily be the card itself, unless Pokemon turns around and they say, "All right, you know what? We're creating a VMAX Rainbow Rare Kadabra card
Yeah.
for the first set that it's released in." If they do that, then yeah, I would say that would be a big hit, whether you're collecting it or investing it. But if they just go through as they've done in the past and just make it, just a regular uncommon card, probably be able to pull it in every 3 packs
Mhm,
or
yeah.
something like that. It's not going to have that same kind of value. But what I could see it do is maybe the set itself could be more valuable because after that long hiatus, the first set, maybe 10 years from now, people will remember that was the first set that Kadabra was reintroduced.
Yeah,
So it may
exactly.
not be the card itself, but I could definitely see that the set that it's released in, the first set, I could see that being kind of a trademark of that set and maybe allowing it to gain value in and of itself.
Imagine they like numbered it 1 out of 1,000 and they only made like 1,000 of them. Like non-sport trading cards or sports trading cards. How crazy
Mhm.
would that be? Like it would be like a subset just to get that card, and you know exactly how many there are in the world. There's only 1,000,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be
I mean,
crazy.
it really is awesome. And honestly, this is sort of the conniving side of me. But if Pokemon wanted to get back at him, they could do something like that where, they say, you know what? We're just gonna play this up. We're gonna hype this up and we're gonna make this card like we're gonna make up for lost time,
Yeah.
essentially. You know what I mean? And he said, you can use it. You can allow it to be in my likeness if you so choose. Honestly, you read through it, and I think he is apologetic, sincerely
Mhm.
about what he did 20 years ago. Um, to me, it never really made sense. I understand like the Japanese version, you know what I mean, where it's young Geller. I mean,
Mhm.
it's essentially using his last name. So that I kind of understand. But how I just don't understand how that translates to the rest of the world and all of the different translations that Kadabra, has existed in, and it to me, yeah, it's sort of magician related, Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam. Um, but Alakazam has spoons as well.
Mhm.
He's got two of them. He, you
Yeah.
know, he's double fisting those spoons. And nothing was ever said about Alakazam. And I always was really curious, and really I think it just boils down to the name, which was only in Japanese. The rest of the world, it wasn't. You know
Did
what I
he
mean? So it
did he
just
have
never made
spoons
sense.
when he performed the
So
illusionist? Did he had some sort of
yeah, so from what I read, that was his back in the day, that was like his patented trick
okay.
was bending spoons, you know, apparently like with his mind, much in the same way that Kadabra and Alakazam would do using their psychic powers.
Mhm.
So apparently that was his patented trick. And so that's on top of, you know, the name, he also claimed that they were using his likeness in the form of the trick that he performed.
Okay.
So, but really, from what I read, you know, as I was saying, for the Japanese versions of these Pokemon, they were essentially an homage to famous magicians, and I can't remember the exact names, but I believe um, Alakazam, the Japanese name, was an homage to Harry Houdini, and then the I can't remember Abra. Abra was also an homage to another famous magician, and so that's where their names. That's how they created their names.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, you know, I mean, it was just always strange. I didn't understand why Kadabra caught all the flack, but yet Alakazam,
We're
you know,
good.
he
Yeah.
yeah, you're good. You got dual spoons, but you're good. Maybe he only was bending one spoon,
Yeah,
and
exactly. There
that
you
was it.
go. No, it was it was literally specifically that one spoon that he couldn't digest, you know? As a-
Mhm. It's
do you
it's like
think
that's it. That's
maybe like he's like after 20 years he's like, "You know what? Maybe if I let them put this card back uh into play into on the market, I'll actually make more money from this going forward." Could be like, "My name is Yuri
so.
Geller and now this is what happened to Kadabra."
Mhm.
You know, he has a story now.
Right. And it very well may be. I actually saw a picture and a video that came from his Twitter where he was opening up this chest full of Kadabra memorabilia.
Hmm.
So this is all stuff that he's essentially been, which it doesn't make any sense in my mind. If you filed a lawsuit against the company that he was even quoted as saying that they had turned him into something to the extent of a cult like Pokemon. That basically this was an occult Pokemon and they were using his likeness, and that's why he filed the lawsuit. And then to turn right around and collect all of the Kadabra memorabilia over the years, it doesn't make much
He
sense to me.
he wanted to buy out the market, amass all these products, and the day that he was like, "Okay, you know what? At 20 years from when I created this and this lawsuit and all that, I'm gonna say
Mhm.
everything's okay. Give Pokemon Company a couple of months to a year to stew on what I've done over the last 20 years. Once they release a new product, I'm gonna have the original stuff that was back there, and everybody's gonna flock to me to come and purchase these things now, and he was gonna make money from it. Can you imagine? That was
So
just
he's basically one of two things. He's one or the other. He's either a con man and he did this so that he could, you know, try to capitalize, or he truly is psychic and understood that 20 years from now, if I do this, I see that Pokemon is just breaking records as a hobby and value. And I'm just going to hoard all this stuff and I'm going to corner the market.
and it's gonna pay off. Maybe
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
That's
So it's
crazy.
it's just a really really interesting situation, and obviously we will keep you guys apprised of exactly what happens. This may all play out maybe by the next podcast, or maybe by the time this podcast drops. But we'll keep you guys filled in and kind of give you our opinions on this matter, and where we think things are going. But yeah, for me, in a nutshell, like I said, unless Pokemon goes all out and says we're going to make a card special for the reintroduction of Kadabra, if they in fact even do it.
Mhm.
There's no guarantee they'll actually do this. I don't know why they wouldn't, honestly. I mean, it's no skin off their nose whether they do or they don't. But should they reintroduce it, unless it's some kind of special card, I don't see it being that valuable. But I could see over the long term, the set that it's released in being the reintroduction set of this card. I could see it maybe having a little bit of a value based upon that.
I just thought about something actually that's pretty strange. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think that Pokemon and Yuri spoke maybe a couple of months back about all this? I feel like there's always a conspiracy behind everything. I said it on my channel. Logan Paul spoke to Pokemon Company. They got together. They said, now is the time. Let's do this. We're going to make the hype. You go into the market. We get this done. Do you think that Pokemon did the same thing with Yuri Geller? It just so happens that Yuri Geller, 1 month before, Alakazam V boxes are supposed to be coming out for Vivid Voltage. Yuri Geller says everything's gonna be okay, guys. Here we go. I'll give Kadabra back to Pokemon. I'm releasing the lawsuit. However, the legal jargon of what's happening there happens. It's look at that timing. I don't know. 2020 has been upside down everywhere. What do you think?
I mean, you make an interesting point. I really didn't think about it in that regard. So maybe you're more of a conspiracy theorist than I am, which is hard to do. But it's I think in my opinion, I think what it boils down to is there is so much notoriety around Pokemon now. And according to Geller himself, he said that the reason that he relinquished the ban on these cards is because he had gotten so much, so many emails, so much correspondence over the years, begging essentially to not have this ban anymore, to eliminate this ban. And he basically said that after a lot of consideration, and I think his grandkids, are into Pokemon as well. And he started to kind of get softer, I guess, in his older age, and decided that it was time to lift the ban. That's his, that's coming from him.
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, I think what it is that there is so much notoriety around Pokemon right now. It's everywhere. People that I had no idea even paid attention to Pokemon are posting it on their social medias or talking about it. I think what it is he noticed that. He saw that maybe there was an opportunity to, in a way, capitalize, maybe gain some notoriety for himself. And he obviously has a tie to Pokemon. It's not necessarily a positive tie, but he has a tie nonetheless, and saw it as an opportunity to maybe gain a little notoriety and to kind of make his name once again after all these years. That's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, just to play into that notoriety, and that Pokemon is invested into all things right now. It's so funny because the statues in the back of me, guys, come from sideshowcollectibles.com. If you guys ever want to take a look at their website, we're not sponsored by them or anything like that. I just love collecting these things. It's just so funny how was it Sunday? No, I think it was yesterday. This company, Sideshow Collectibles, just announced that they're making a Pokeball die-cast replica. It's going to be like 3 inches tall. So it's going to be super tiny. It's not going to be very big. And it's supposed to be a perfect replica of what a Pokeball is supposed to look like in real life, I guess. It's just funny how Marvel and DC, they have the license. Sideshow has the license for Marvel and DC mostly. They have other licenses as well. Just like they went to get this Pokemon product now from this sub company just so they can have a Pokemon item on their website. Just goes to show how many ties and how much pull Pokemon is having on different markets around the world in collecting and investing and so much more. It's funny with what's going on right now.
Well, in some ways, it's very reminiscent to how it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, there wasn't a product out there that didn't have Pokemon on it. I mean, everything from cereals to bed sheets to, shower curtains, it didn't matter. I mean, everything seemed to have Pokemon on it.
The cereals are
And
back, no?
the cereals are back. The
I gotta
cereals
look for those at
are
Walmart now. Unless it's a
yeah. I
US exclusive, right?
maybe they'll have different flavors for Canada. Maybe
You're,
Canada's will be a maple syrup
yeah,
flavor.
there you go. Worst case scenario, just send me a box. We'll figure it out. I'll pay for shipping. Send me the box. I'll put it in the
There-
collection.
but yeah, like I said, it's just I think they're just trying to get their name on everything that they can right now, and other companies are trying to do the same. I mean, there were so many companies back in the 90s that were working directly with Pokemon to have that brand on their products, and I think we're going through the same thing now,
Hmm.
just going through another cycle of this. So really interesting that this has transpired after all this time. And like I said, guys, we will keep you updated on this development. If Kadabra does hit the TCG, I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. I know I'll be happy to see Kadabra. I think Jules will be happy to see him as well.
Yes, sir.
Um, but we'll keep you guys updated. We'll let you know what is going on with this. And yeah, hopefully we will see Kadabra in the future. So now that we've covered that, I want to get into the big topic for our discussion today. Now, by the time this podcast does air, this will kind of be older news, but it is big news nonetheless. And coming from the two of us, this is something that I really, and I know Jules did as well, we really wanted to discuss here tonight.
Hmm.
And that is, if you guys haven't heard by now, which I don't know, you must be living under a rock, but if you haven't heard, PSA, the number one grading company out there, the company that most of you probably send your Pokemon cards to, the parent company, so the company that owns PSA, known as Collectors Universe, has been bought out for $700 million.
Mm.
And they have been purchased by a guy named Nat Turner. Now, this guy is a pretty big angel investor, entrepreneur, and his company is D1 Capital Partners LP, as well as Cohen Private Ventures. And these will be the companies together that will be acquiring all of Collectors Universe's outstanding common stock shares. And any of you out there that are invested in Collectors Universe, you're probably pretty happy by about now, because the stock did sell at a premium. I believe prior to the acquisition, it was selling at about $70 a share. And the purchase that will happen, or by this point may have already happened, is going for $75.25 a share. So I'm sure you guys out there are super, super happy. But the big thing through all of this, and the big takeaway, is that the move means that PSA will move from being a publicly owned company to a private entity, a privately held company. Now, as many of you know, my background is in finance, financial advisor. So this is right up my alley. And for those of you that don't know, when you move from being a publicly listed company, so under the umbrella and under the oversight of FINRA and the SEC, now we're talking about the American markets here, Securities and Exchange Commission. When you get out of that and you become private, there is a lot more financial mobility because you don't have the same amount of regulation. Now, I'll tell you guys right up front, FINRA, SEC, the most highly regulated industries out there. Now, these are self-regulating industries. So in some ways, they're highly regulated, but they make the rules.
But yeah, exactly.
But when you move to being a private company, you do have more financial mobility. You don't have all of the regulations. And to me, I'll just give my take on all of this. I'm actually super happy because now that they're a private entity, they don't have to necessarily appeal to the market. They don't have to appeal necessarily to, they're still going to appeal to their shareholders, but that's not necessarily the main focus. When you're a private entity, now you're more focused on long-term viability. And from what I've read on this Nat Turner, he has done a fantastic job with some of his previous acquisitions in companies in turning them around, turning around and then selling them for huge profits. Now, I don't think that they're going to turn around and sell Collectors Universe. I think this is a long-term venture for both companies. But I'm really excited because I think this is going to pump a lot of new money into PSA. I think that you're going to see more employees being hired for PSA because this company, I don't think they would have made this merger or this acquisition, I should say, if they didn't see a huge opportunity in the market. And I think that's exactly what they're seeing here. They're seeing all of the extremely long turnaround times, all of the delays. When we were going through the pandemic, PSA either laid off or furloughed a lot of their employees, and that was lending to these long turnaround times. So I think they're going to pump a lot of money into hiring more people, getting more graders trained to grade cards. And in my opinion, I think it's really going to help with the turnaround times. And I think they're also, now that you've got a lot more companies that are entering the market, you've got CGC most recently, obviously you got Beckett, which is probably their biggest competitor, SGC. You've got all of these companies that are now entering into the market, and PSA, they're going to have to be able to differentiate themselves. Now they're the longest standing grading company, especially when it comes to Pokemon cards. But these other companies are starting to catch up. They're starting to gain more notoriety. And I think throughout this whole endeavor, they're going to focus on creating a really, really good product. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe redesigned labels, redesigned the packaging, maybe even honed in more on their grading process itself to make it more amicable to people who are having their cards graded. We've talked about it before and kind of speculated that, maybe you just have a machine that you put the cards into and it gives you exact dimensions where you're not necessarily held to the subjectivity of a grader. Now, do I think that's something that's going to come in the next few years? No, I think that's pretty far off. But I could see them doing something to really hone in on that so that people know when I send my cards to PSA, I am getting the most accurate grade and value out there. So I find it really interesting. I think that it's actually a great thing. And as I said, having been in finance for many years, typically when you see this, companies are more concerned about long-term viability. So that this indicates to me that PSA, I think both from a long-term standpoint, but also short-term, I think they have struggled through the pandemic. I think they have really struggled to keep up, and they needed a little bit more heavyweight lifting from some of these big boys. And I think this is where you see the emergence of this Nat Turner and his investment group. I think they can offer them that.
They needed more Machamps. They needed more arms.
Exactly.
To carry forward this business.
They had a lot of Machokes, but they
just flexing all the time, just flexing.
Yeah, just flexing. Not really lifting. They're kind of like the physique models, and then they needed the Machamps that actually are like the power lifters to come in.
Exactly. I think my voice cracked there. I don't know what happened.
You're just so excited, man.
Yeah,
so
I know. Like the thoughts are just happening in my brain, guys. It's happening too quick. Nat Turner comes in. First thing I saw was 700 million. I was like, what? Wow. Okay. This is pretty chunk of change. We're talking deep pockets here, So to me, it was like, that was what caught my attention, was the $700 million price tag to it. But I believe deep down that Nat Turner will bring a better supply chain, a better streamline to the process, possibly more lean. Try to be as lean as possible, right? Because if you cut
Mhm.
out processes in the supply chain, you get to yes faster, you get to the end result faster, and that's what everybody's looking for at the end of the day, right? To try to be as lean as possible in the process. So I think from what I read, possibly don't quote me on this, but I think he's had expertise in reducing certain processes to make them more streamlined into the business that he was dealing with or whatever the case is. So I think that's going
Mhm.
to be a major win for PSA, 100%. To your point as well, the label. I know it's practical. It says what the set is, it says what the card is, and it says the grade. That's it. To me, not for anything. PSA has the most boring label that you can find out there. That's just my opinion.
Mhm.
I like a bit more flash. The white and red doesn't really cut it for me. I like more CGC and BGS. Why doesn't PSA have subgrades? Can you offer subgrades, please? Come on. Like, can you tell? I want to know uh, what can fix this. Can anything be fixed on this card? I don't know. Like, are you
Yeah.
off by this? Like, you have zero idea of what's happening to this PSA card. So maybe with this acquisition, maybe they might say, you know what, BGS has subgrades, CGC has subgrades, all these other companies are offering these. Even if you don't have to give it on every card, just let the people or the consumer decide if they want the subgrade or not. I think it would be much
Mhm.
easier this way. People would be more understanding of the thought process behind the grader and what he was thinking while viewing this card. So, number one, I think their label needs to be changed because it's boring to me. I'd rather have CGC or BGS label. And number two, I think a subgrade is something that's required to help. They've been doing this for years. I don't know why they. I don't know. Maybe it was rooted in their original thoughts, and they just stuck with it. They said, "Why change something that's broken?" Right? The good old saying.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think it's a plus for everyone in the market. I think it's a plus for the business itself, and hopefully the turnaround times just get maybe not right away. But it's probably gonna take a bit of time for everybody to come
Mhm.
in and start implementing new things. But that timeline right now is is getting absurd.
Well, for me, what I've done is I haven't submitted cards directly to PSA in a long time. In a long time. Now I'm going through Graded Gem. They're way faster. Which, if you guys don't know, Graded Gem, they're basically a liaison between yourself and PSA. A couple guys out of the UK is who started it, and then they now have a ambassador here in the U.S., also serving Canada, which is James Carson. You guys might know him as Z from Z&G Emporium, but the turnaround times are much faster going through them. I don't know how. And I think that is basically lends to your point that it's processing, that somehow Graded Gem has found a way to get these cards through processing faster. Or
Cut the line.
maybe it's just cut the line. Exactly. Somehow they have gotten that preferential treatment in doing so. So that's kind of where I've been sending most of my cards is through Graded Gem. But I agree with you with your sentiment. I would love to see subgrades on PSA cards. I love that about BGS. I love that about CGC, being able to see, okay, maybe I was half a point off on centering or half a point. I got a PSA 9, but it was so close to that PSA 10. But you just don't know with PSA. It's those whole numbers. It's like PSA 10, PSA 9, PSA 8, and so on. Whereas with BGS, you pay a little bit of a premium to get those subgrades on your cards. But that is why, if you get a PSA 10 and you think it's a great card, that is why so many people crack that case open and they submit it to BGS, because at the very least, even if, let's say, it comes back a BGS 10, the pristine 10, you're still going to see why. You're still going to see, okay, you got a 9.5 on centering or edges or something like that.
Don't we
Um,
compare BGS's 9.5 to PSA's 10 somehow?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if it was me and I would crack the 10, I most likely was thinking that I'm gonna end up getting a 9.5 BGS. That's from what I've seen in the past. Maybe I haven't been dabbling in the market of graded stuff long enough to know, but I feel like every video I see of people doing that end up with a 9.5 somehow, or
Mhm.
majority. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where you run the risk. But a lot of people when they get that PSA 10 back, especially if it's a valuable card, even if it comes back a BGS pristine 10, which is, I mean, essentially the same thing as a PSA 10,
exactly.
but because it's coming back in that pristine status, it garners a premium, and so that's why people shoot for it. Now, granted, you can try to go for the gold or the black label BGS card, which is
The home run of
good luck.
cards.
Yeah, it's the home run of cards. Good luck with that. But that's why people would break it. I don't personally do it. I don't recommend. If I got a PSA 10, I'm keeping it a PSA 10. But yeah,
Save your
that's
money.
something that I would. Yeah, exactly. But that is something that I would like to see. Throughout maybe this change is subgrades on the card. The other thing that I would really like to see is more actual brick and mortar stores. I mean, what better time is there than now with commercial real estate so low? Now would be the time to open up more brick and mortar stores because then you can have people walk in. Obviously, you do it safe, you wear your mask and everything, but to be able to go in, if I had a PSA brick and mortar location here in Phoenix, Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
I would every single time I would take my cards in, even if it was, which it is, it's a premium for same day grading or walk-in grading, things like that. I would pay that again and again and again to be able to walk my cards in there because you've seen it. You've seen how many people have gotten their cards lost in the mail. I mean, the most famous one I would say thus far is Leonhardt had his Charizard lost in the mail for months and months. So people would feel much more secure if they had an office, even within a couple hours. If even if they had an office within a couple hour drive, people would make that drive. If you've got a high value card, you got that first edition base set Charizard, I'm going to walk that in. I don't care. I'd drive 5 hours if I had to drop that off to know that I got it to their location. So
Agree.
that's something that I would like to see personally. If there's going to be a lot of money pumped into PSA, to collectors universe as a whole, I would like to see more brick and mortar locations because I think collectors, investors would absolutely love that, to know that they can drop their cards off at the store itself without running the risk of sending it in the mail and those cards getting lost.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point and valid point. Like you said, not only number one does it help PSA in general, just try and streamline the process, get everything done quicker, but it helps financially the market, society, cities, towns,
Mhm.
states, whatever the case is, to rebuild from what has happened to the financial structure of the world, basically, right? And
Mhm.
how okay, maybe I wouldn't pay the premium on every single card. Maybe I would just like walk in, drop off my 100 cards, and then just go home, even though it took me 5 hours to drive. But you did it yourself, right? At the end of the day, you gave it to someone, and as soon as they took those cards, you knew that whatever the case was, you were gonna be okay because your cards made it safely to PSA. And
Exactly.
going back again, I'm a face to face guy. I always like to interact in person. I find that it would be, even though you might not see what's happening in the back of that door, right? You drop it off with the receptionist or whatever the case is, just to feel that you were able to physically yourself accomplish this dropping off of your things and making sure everything was okay, and just to see the building of what PSA would look like that just
Mhm.
adds to the experience as a collector, as an
Oh,
investor, whatever the
definitely.
case is, it's just so much
Mhm.
better. So that point you just made there, my friend, that is a solid point.
Well, and not only that, man, I'm thinking to myself now where, when you take into consideration like shipping costs and buying insurance on those cards that you're sending in, even if you're walking into the store and you're paying a premium to basically walk it in, honestly, after you take into consideration having had those cards shipped, paying the insurance on those cards, probably going to offset each other in the end anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So really, at that point, it's a matter of security. It's just a matter of knowing I got my cards to where they needed to go. You don't have to go through that middleman, which is the postal service, and run the risk of your cards getting lost. And I'm really glad that Leonhard honestly broadcast that and basically showed, the whole tribulation that he had to go throughout all of this. Basically, finally having to contact his state representative to get in the middle of it, because he just wasn't getting anywhere, and he finally just lucked out that somehow it made it there.
Yeah.
Because in the end, he would have been out of that card. There's nothing more that he could have done. And essentially he was out. I think what at the time was 70,000.
70 and
Yeah.
50 or 70 or something like that.
I think by the time he got it back, it was worth like 70.
It worked out well.
And it was 50. When he got it back, it was already 70. But yeah, just that's, when I'm looking at it and I'm taking into consideration all those extraneous costs just to get your cards there, even if PSA charges me a premium to drop the cards off there, I think in the end, probably going to offset each other, and that you got your cards there. So that is definitely, I mean, if they are looking for any kind of recommendations, that is what I would love. They don't have to be a ton of them, you know what I mean? But put them in your big metropolitan areas. You're in Canada, obviously, but here in the States, I think the only location is in California.
Mm-hmm.
The only PSA location is in California. So, put them in New York, put them in Philadelphia, put them in Phoenix, put them in Dallas, all of these, like maybe the top 10 largest metropolitan cities, something like that, to where, that way you can kind of cover all of the different geographic regions, of the US. And then if you have to commute, maybe it's a few hour commute from wherever you're at. You know what I mean? Kind of position them so that no matter where you live, maybe you're within a maximum of a 3 to 4 hour drive, 5 hour drive, maybe from those locations.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would like to see.
The shipping at the end of the day goes back to last podcast as well, when I answered the question about being a fellow Canadian collector. The shipping is always something that is major to my decisions, because not only do I have to ship my stuff to the US, let's say I would use graded gem, there's a possibility that they get stuck at the border for who knows how long. Oh, sir, what is this? Pokemon cards? What is this? I don't understand what's happening here. So maybe you get stuck there 3 months and you have no idea what's going on, right? And then it's difficult to get it out of the board. It's just like a pain. It's too much work, too much work. So, and yes, okay, fine. PSA is in the US, but everybody around the world has to send their cards directly to the US. So not only for me in Canada, but for anybody, it could get stuck coming from a plane from Japan. Someone wants to get a card graded, right? It gets stuck still at customs, whatever the case is. So that's a huge pain. And PSA also, like CGC has done it already in the past. They opened up headquarters in London for comics. They opened up headquarters in the US. Another company that grades comic books, CBCS, they were mainly based out of the US as well. They opened a carrier or a sub company in Canada so that we wouldn't have to, let's say, go to a Comic-Con in the US and drop off our books and make it easier and bring us. We can just go to a Comic-Con here in Canada and they'd be able to get everything sorted out via their warehouse, via their processing, whatever the case is, and them take care of getting the books to where they're supposed to be in order to get graded. So I think PSA could do it too, like we're here, we send money, We pay well. It's not like we're nice people. You can open up maybe a PSA close to the border. I'm in Montreal, guys.
Yeah.
Open it around the New York area. I'm in. I'm in when that border opens up. Let's go. We drop off our stuff. You get more money. I think there's so many
Mhm.
options available out there. I think it's a good thing though. At the end of the day, to wrap everything up, Nat Turner, if you're listening to this with your deep pockets, please, can you try to put some more brick and mortar stores out there for PSA?
And make sure that if you do, that you also take them international
There
as
you go.
well. Take them out of the States. Maybe in the beginning, expand that to, Canada, expand that to Mexico, North America. Then, from there, take it to Europe. And then just kind of go from there. Look where they know where the demand is. Obviously, they understand where people are sending their cards from. So they have a pulse. They probably have statistics to show them and data to show them. So it shouldn't be that difficult. Start out with the places that there's the most demand, and then just go from there.
I think the
Just go from there.
smartest option right away, right from the get go. Again, I've not been in the grading industry and seen too long, but if you watch a bunch of videos on YouTube, guys, there is a lot of collectors in the UK. So you open one in
Yeah.
the UK, they have it's just peace of mind. Graded gem in the
Mhm.
UK. Oh my god. No more shipping extensive amounts of cards overseas, and I'm sure they have it all down packed now because they've been just killing it with all the cards that they're receiving and all
Mhm.
the submissions they've had. But how much easier would that be? No customs forms, no nothing. Just here, put it with the UK mail postage, whatever the case is, and off you go. It goes 6 hours away and it's dropped off at PSA. Thank you very much. Merci, bonsoir, like we like to call it in French. And
Mhm.
that's it. Yeah, it's perfect. It's wonderful. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So yeah, Nat Turner, if you're listening to us by some slim chance, and you need to bring us on for your board of directors meeting to give you our insight, just reach out to us, pokemon.purveyors@gmail.com.
That's it.
Let us know. We'll be happy to sit in on this whole process and help you guys out.
We have suits. We can dress up at suits so we can sit around the conference table. We got everything covered. We're good to go.
And if need be, if things get serious and things get heated, we can always take our ties and double them as a bandana to go into war.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, it's sort of an inside joke. If any of you watch Jules' video, specifically the one where we had a pack battle, then you'll know that a tie also doubles as a war bandana.
Absolutely. Oh my
All
god.
right, guys. So I think that is going to do it for our big topics for today. Obviously, those are really the big things that are going on within the TCG realm right now. Obviously, the potential Kadabra card coming back, the PSA buyout. Just wanted to give you guys our perspectives on that. Maybe give you, a little insight that maybe you didn't think about or that you haven't seen out there yet. So now that we have covered that, Jules, I think it is time, my friend, to get to our questions of the week. And we got
Yes.
some good ones this week. Some really, really good ones.
I
So
think
why
so.
don't you start us off, my friend?
Are we gonna go with Instagram first, or are we gonna go with those emails that we received in our inbox?
Well, let's go with those emails. Let's
Okay.
go with those emails first. Those are usually a little more in depth. So I
Yeah.
like those.
Okay. So we received an email on Saturday from Hisham A. Um, and this is the question. So he says, "Hey guys, loving the new content. My question is, what do you think of responsible investments in chasing modern cards at MSRP? For example, Pikachu Rainbow Rare number 188 in Vivid Voltage. Cheers." And he goes by the name of Infamous, I'm guessing on YouTube or IG. So guys, if you want to follow him, go ahead. But so Shad, let me recap that again. What do you think is a responsible or what do you think of responsible investing and chasing of modern cards at MSRP?
Well, first of all, if you can actually find some of these chase cards right now at MSRP, then I want to know your secret.
Winning.
Because yeah, exactly. Typically what I have found is with your newest sets, you're not going to find cards at quote unquote MSRP until probably several months after the set's release. Now, specifically, he's asking about the Pikachu Rainbow Rare in Vivid Voltage. That's the big chase card for that particular set.
Mhm.
With it being so new, I mean, we see this. Luckily, it's not a Charizard. Thank God it's not a Charizard
Thank you.
because you saw it in Champions Path, the Shiny Charizard V, and then the Rainbow Rare Charizard V Max. As soon as that set was released, as soon as those cards started hitting the market, huge premiums that people were charging for those cards. They've dropped down since then, and that's typically what you see. Is that within a few months after the set releases, especially if there's another set that has been released, you'll start to see those cards go back down. Now, Charizard is the big chase card for no matter what set we're talking about. So you're going to see those kind of sustain their value. But with the Pikachu Rainbow Rare, that is a card that I foresee dropping much more in value as we go along. It's a cool card. It's chunky Pikachu, but I hate to say this, it's not Charizard. It's just not.
It's so unfair.
It's so unfair because honestly, Pikachu is the mascot of the hobby. Always has been. So it's strange that Charizard has been the chase card since the beginning. But for cards like that, if you're trying to chase them, if you're trying to get them at MSRP, and I don't know, for individual cards, I don't know if you can really put an MSRP on that.
Yeah.
You can go to sites like PokeLector and TCG Player and places like that, and you can see the breakdown on cards, the value, and they give realistic values on cards, on raw cards. That's the importance of getting cards graded. But the main thing is it doesn't matter what they say the price is. It's what you're actually paying out on the open market, what is actually available. And what I found is that if you're trying to purchase these cards within a few weeks, even a month of when a set is released, you're going to pay a lot more. So my advice, if you are chasing these type of cards, it is better to just wait it out.
Mhm.
Wait even until for the next set to release. So Vivid Voltage has released, even Shiny Star V. People, forgot about Vivid Voltage, trying to get Shiny Star V now. And, definitely when we get our next English set, whenever that's released, Vivid Voltage, it'll be forgotten. And, it's even like with Darkness Ablaze, like when Champions Path, it's always that subsequent set. People focus on that. And that's just the nature of the hobby. You're always looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
You said it in the last podcast, you're always looking for the next best thing. So if there is a particular card that you are looking to get from a set and it's very new, just wait until the next set comes out. You're going to see that card drop in price to a more comfortable level. Now, MSRP, like I said, I don't know if you can actually tie that term around individual cards because individual cards they're going to be sold on the secondary market. So they're never going to be at MSRP. So that's just kind of my take on it. Wait, give it time. If you're looking for chase cards, give it time and the prices should come down.
Where do you think that's gonna settle at? Because right now, Champions Pack Charizards are settled at what, 400-ish range, $400-$500 or something around
You know
that.
what?
Intense.
Let's just go ahead and take a look.
Yeah.
We want to give people accurate information here. So let's just go to eBay. Let's see what Shiny
Phoebe.
Star or Shiny. I'm thinking Shiny Star V.
Yeah.
So Charizard. So I got a PSA 8 for $499.
PSA 8.
PSA 8.
Wow.
PSA 10, 811.
Okay. That's serious.
Another PSA 10, 869. This is what is available. Let's see what has recently sold. Wow, this is just a raw. It looks like raw cards, ungraded, are going for about 350. Yep, PSA 10 most recent uh sold listing was $960 in a PSA 10. Let's look at that Charizard
Rainbow.
Rainbow
That's crazy. Okay, but the
VMAX.
the raw version was approximately 400 ish dollars.
Yeah, about 350
350.
for a raw, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, after Champions Path was released, I think it was going for around six when it was initially released.
I
So
think it was even
I
higher.
mean, it might have been. It very well. I don't even pay attention to it, honestly.
I think it was 1,000 at one point, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Troll and Toad TCG player. I don't know what it was, but they had one at
Mhm.
300 or 400. Then it went to 500. Then it went to 750. And it was like every day it was just climbing. They would get one in and they would put it
Mhm.
for an extra $200 or whatever it was. It was crazy.
So it looks like the Rainbow Rare Charizard VMAX is going for slightly less. I'm seeing everything from about 300 to like 340. It looks like about 320 is the average. So still pretty close to the shiny Charizard V. And then in a PSA 10, I've got one here for 810. I've got,
So it's
see,
slightly
here
less
is a
within $100.
yeah, yeah. So they're actually pretty close. Which actually, I made a video a while back where I was speculating before Champions Path was released. I was speculating on what I thought the two Charizards, what they would be, what their price would be when they were initially released, and then what they would settle in at about 3 to 4 months post release. Um, and I can't actually remember what I had forecasted, but I believe I think I was saying they would be within $100 of each other.
You did.
Either way, whether raw or graded, I think they would be around $100. I think in PSA 10s maybe a little bit more than that, maybe like a $300 to $400 difference from the PSA 10s, which is not quite what we're seeing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where those two cards go. But again, they're Charizards. They were two Charizards in the same set.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is that the Shiny Charizard V, that was the first time that we got a release before Japan.
True.
It was released in a set before it was released in Japan, which I thought was really interesting. That's why I had forecasted that the Shiny Charizard V would be worth a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it is in fact more, but not that much more. And I think probably you're seeing the price come down on that just because we're starting to see it in Shiny Star V now.
Yeah. That's to add to that point, I echo pretty much what you've said. It makes sense. Like you said, the main thing is, unfortunately, it's not a Charizard. And although Pikachu is liked by a lot of people, there's a lot more people I think that like Charizard. In terms of a card collectible aspect of it, it is more popular of a card
Mhm.
than a Pikachu would be. I think it's probably gonna settle around the $150 mark. Do you think that's like a
Mhm.
reasonable amount?
Let's,
Once everything is
and
died
I'm,
down, I think they're like at 300-ish dollars right now. Last that I
mhm.
checked. So I think half, around the 150, I think is gonna be a reasonable price for that card. It's 1 in 1,000, I think. Last that I knew. Also, it's hard to acquire. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, so in its raw form, it looks like there's one most recent 212, 243, 228. Here's one for 255.
So maybe
Here's
go to
a
mid
PSA
200s.
9. PSA 9 its best offer was accepted, but it's showing 777. But that is, here was another one, PSA 9, 499, best offer accepted. So unfortunately, I wish we had flipper tools to where we
Yeah.
could see the exact price. Oh, here we go. Here was a BGS Pristine 10
Ooh.
that sold for $1,076.
So
Wow.
right off the bat, if a one of those Charizards was a BGS Pristine 10, it would have sold for more than the $1,000 range because they're selling for approximately $800 to $900 now, and they were
Mhm.
PSA 10s or whatever the case. And a
Mhm.
BGS somehow always demands that premium in a BGS
Yep.
Pristine 10, right? So I would assume that that Charizard would still be more valuable than the Pikachu any day of the week.
Mhm. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
Exactly.
it's a nice card. I'm still looking for mine. So we're gonna have to be patient, Hisham, I think. And what Shad said, I echo as well. Just be patient. Once that new set comes out in February for North America and the rest of the world, then maybe things will just lower itself in terms of steadying the price of that Pikachu card, and you can maybe pick it
Mhm.
up at that time.
Yep. I agree.
All right,
All right.
Shad,
What
what's
other
the
question?
question numero deux, number two?
All right. So this one is also coming from our email. And this comes from Swami. He says, "Hey guys, Swami here. You guys discuss how well Pokemon listens to the fans in your first podcast. Do you think Pokemon will recognize the larger portion of adults now collecting and offer options for collectors in the future? For example, alternate art cards, numbered cards, one of X, options that do not affect the player base, but give collectors a chase with secondary market upside." So basically, what he's saying here is he's wondering if, with this resurgence of collectors, investors, if Pokemon is going to start appealing and creating cards that are more based around aspects that collectors and investors are looking for versus just strictly creating cards for the competitive play scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jules, I'll let you take this one first, and then I'll go ahead and jump in.
Very cool. That's a good question, Swami. So as I think about my answer, I think if they would do that, I feel like there would be some sort of backlash. Not crazy negativity around the whole aspect of it, but I feel like people would say that Pokemon would be losing their roots of some sort because at the end of the day, Pokemon was there to be enjoyed and played through the cards, right? It was a
Mhm.
trading card game at the end of the day, and I think that that aspect of it is still ingrained deep down into Pokemon's core and their motto, their raison d'être, the reason for being, basically, as the company. And I don't like. I think right now, especially in North America, after 20 years, I don't think right now would be the time to do that. Again, this year is an exceptional year. So many things have happened that would have led to Pokemon acquiring all this um, not information, but this notoriety and this like being in the news and so on and so forth. So I don't think right now would be the opportune time for Pokemon to do that type of thing in terms of uh, really pinpointing things that a collector would like versus someone that's actually playing the game. At the end of the day, these cards have attacks, they have HP, they're meant to be played. So 2020 has been crazy. I don't foresee it happening in the next 5 years either. I think maybe more of a long term thing because the collectible aspect has been there. Yes, people, as we see, closed product, sealed product, and graded cards and all that. It's everything's collectible. I get it, but I don't think they're at the point where let's just make something for the collector. I think that's funneling themselves too much in a business aspect of it. That there at the end of the day, there's a lot of TCG players also, so you can't forget that. And as there's a lot of collectors, I get it, but they would be funneling themselves too much into something that they're unsure of right now at the moment because yes, they're selling a lot, but are all these people actually gonna stay in the next year or past that time? So I just think it's too soon. That's my opinion.
No, and that's a really good opinion. My retort on this would be Pokemon has never really appealed to collectors per se. Um, it is collector, but how do I phrase this? Collectors have always found something within cards that make it valuable to them and to the wider consumer base, whether you're a collector or an investor. This could be things like swirls in hollow WotC cards.
Mhm.
This could be that think error cards, gold star cards. Like Pokemon created these cards, I mean, for an aesthetic value, for people to enjoy. But there was nothing inherently uh, designed in them to try to appeal to collectors. Collectors have essentially applied some kind of meaning behind that as we've gone along. So I would say that whether they do or they don't, um, collectors will always find something about particular cards that they want in their collection. And in doing so, investors will always invest in those cards because it appeals to collectors. So do you get what I'm saying there? Hopefully I'm explaining myself right. But whether they do or they don't, I mean, you could get into even like first edition stamps. Like if you go back to WotC and you've got first edition stamps on cards, you can make the argument that that does appeal to collectors and investors because it's limited. It's a limited print, and that would appeal to somebody that's looking for value and differentiation in the card itself. But there's people out there that collect uh, first edition or light first edition, like the light stamps or error stamps when there's a
Yeah.
slight imperfection in the stamp itself. Like Pokemon didn't intend to do that to try to appeal to collectors. It was just a byproduct, it's just something that happened. And over time, we have applied a meaning behind that, a value behind that. So, in my opinion, whether they are forthright in saying we're going to produce these cards specifically for a collection purpose, we will always apply some kind of value to cards based upon design, maybe based upon errors, what have you. There will always be some kind of subliminal meaning there that permeates throughout the community, and that will be a collection piece in and of itself.
Mhm.
So to me, I think that that's something that you have to consider. I think the only thing, in my opinion, that Pokemon has actually produced, and it wasn't even necessarily Pokemon. I mean, back then it was Wizards of the Coast, were the first edition cards, the first edition stamps. To me, that's the only thing that they've really done to perhaps appeal to collectors or investors.
And even at
Beyond
that,
that,
did they really do it on purpose to say, "Oh, the collectors are gonna love the first edition"? I just think they said, you know what, we need a way to figure out which ones we printed first, so we're gonna put a one on it. That's about it.
mhm. Or it probably just boiled down to marketing.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we want to create a lot of hype. We want to create a lot of excitement around this new set. So we're going to do this limited run of these first edition cards, just to kind of get them out there, get people. People will be scrambling for them because they're limited in print, and then we'll come back around and we'll print. We'll have the unlimited set. So I think it was more or less just a marketing thing, just to create more excitement, more hype. So Swami, I don't know if we necessarily answered the question, to your liking, but you may find solace in the fact that there will always be some kind of meaning and value behind all cards. We create that as a community.
Mhm.
Jules, you can probably say the same thing with comics. There's certain things about comics that just have more inherent value. Your
Yep.
statues, there's things that just have more inherent value because of little niche things. And it would only be within the community that you would understand that. If you took
Exactly.
a novice and showed them, a first edition, you showed them two first edition cards, one was a light stamp, the other wasn't, they wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. And it's only because of the meaning that has been attached to those from members of the community, collectors, investors, that we now have that a part of the social dialogue.
Yeah.
So, but that it is a good question. I've gotten that a lot, and I think what it really boils down to is people really want to have those first edition stamps brought back because that will give cards more value. But beyond that, like I said, we will always create value based upon things that we agree on within the community that are unique and that differentiate cards themselves.
Mm-hmm. If there's enough people thinking of something, then there's a good chance that it'll likely be fruitful down the road to become
Hmm.
something that Pokemon never intended it to become, let's say, or
Hmm.
whatever the case is.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
good question. Good question.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our last one here. And this comes from trainer Jake. It says, "Hey, purveyors, I'm enjoying the content. Thanks for all the insight. Definitely laying down that double slap attack and thunder punch on your videos." And I'm sure if you're joining us, you know where that innuendo is coming from. One question I have is about my sealed single promo cards. I have a few, including an ancient Mew I got back when the first movie came out, as well as the new special delivery Pikachu. I want to get them graded, but I'm curious if I should grade them sealed or not. I really want to open them, but am concerned that they're more valuable sealed. What are your thoughts? So, this is an interesting one because with promo cards, as you guys know, they did come in those sealed individual plastic sleeves. And especially, talking about the ancient Mew card here, there are a lot of people out there that will actually get it's graded through PSA or Beckett or whomever still in that package. Now, in my experience, what I have found is that the sealed products graded do hold a slight premium over the cards that have been taken out of the package. So just the individual ancient Mew card itself. The sealed products do hold a slight premium. This is one of the big mysteries of the Pokemon card world. How can PSA give a grade on, because if you look at it, so the ancient Mew card, you had there was another like little piece in there, and then the ancient Mew card, you only saw the back of it.
Yep.
You saw the back of the ancient Mew. You never saw the front. They were basically facing each other, so you couldn't see the front of the card. I have never understood how they are able to give a grade on that card when they can't even see the front of it. It's something that is just baffling to me. Um, so how they're able to give that grade, I have no idea. But to answer your question, it does seem like the sealed cards themselves in the sleeve, it does seem that they command a slightly higher premium than the individual card itself. So if you're concerned about it, I would say try to get it graded sealed because you will probably find more value in that. But like I said, I have no explanation as to how PSA is able to come to that conclusion because they can't even see the front of the card itself.
To add my take on that. Number one, like you said, I do not understand a single thing on what they are doing. At that point, just put it in a piece of plastic and call it whatever grade you want. From what I can tell, because going back again, what are you gonna? You're gonna look at just the back of the card because that ancient Mew came with like a description, right? There was like writing of a description or something like that in that front card, and you only saw the back of the ancient Mew. So to me, when I saw that PSA was grading these closed things, you know what? I don't know. Send whatever you want that's sealed, and let them put it in a case at that point, and at least you'll have it encapsulated forever. But
Yeah.
you'll never see it. To me, as a collector, as you can see, we need to display things. So for me, there's a no, like hands down, no brainer, not even an option. This card is coming out of the plastic. Or if you're scared, you could put it in between the cardboard, whatever the case is, however you're shipping it to PSA. Leave them a note, tell them to take it out once they receive it if you're scared of damaging it yourself or it being in transport or whatever the case is. Tell them to take it out, and at least you can see the front of that card. Guys, that card is so nice. The colors on it, everything is just bright, shiny. It was ahead of its time in 2000 and 1999 and all that. Like, this was revolutionizing. So guys, let's keep a piece of history intact here. The cellophane plastic wrap, nobody cares about. At the end of the day, you want to see that card, you want to have it in display. So to me, hands down, I would rip that thing out of there or leave them a note and tell them, please take it out and grade the card itself, just to add to that as well. If I'm not mistaken, if CGC runs the same business model that they run on their comic side, when you send a comic in that's still in plastic, because there's sometimes that happens that they're still in the plastics, they come with 3D eyeglasses, let's say, or whatever the case is, they remove the comic book from that plastic, and then they will grade the book inside. They will never grade your product with that plastic on it. So I don't even think CGC is even going to grade that plastic if you send it to them. Just going off of what I know in the comic world. So if you have to send it, I think it would just be PSA, because I've only seen PSA ones get graded like that. Maybe BG. I don't even think so. I think it's just PSA. But it just goes to show also, like, because send them an envelope, guys, with a Pokemon card inside, and tell them you want the card graded. See what they do. Like, I don't know what kind of. I don't get that business view of it.
And I also wonder from the standpoint of fake products.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing how good many of these scammers are now of resealing sealed products. I mean, who's to say that you don't take a similar cellophane wrap, you put a fake card in there. You're now a grader is trying to look through it through this shrink wrap. They're not getting an accurate, in my opinion, an accurate depiction of the card itself. So very well, I mean, I see a prime opportunity for scammers here. I mean, you think about it, you're getting this product graded. It's already in the packaging. Now it's in an encapsulated case. You could churn those out like no other. Put those out on the open market and just be raking in the cash. I mean, they're going for over $300 now. PSA 10, those sealed ancient Mew cards, over $300, well over $300. I mean, think about it. They're getting so good at scamming and faking sealed products. This seems like a prime opportunity for them to do that. And if you've got a grader that is trying to look and grade a card through this packaging, they're already, in my opinion, not getting an accurate idea of what it really is. It just seems prime for me for scammers. And I don't know. I am honestly baffled at this as to how or why PSA would actually grade these sealed. It's just beyond comprehension.
Goes back to last podcast as well, guys. I always said it. Learn how to understand what makes up an 8, a 9, a 10. Learn the ins and outs of it. Make sure you understand it yourself, because just put yourself in a greater shoes. You walk in today, you get 16 ancient Mews in a plastic bag that you need to grade and put in another plastic envelope, a plastic case. You can't even see the card, guys. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Mind blown.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But all in all, Trainer Jake, I guess, just from the standpoint that you're looking at, from a value standpoint, it does appear that the sealed products do command a slightly higher premium. Neither of us really understand why, but that is the way that things are. So, for yourself, I would say if you are questioning it, get it graded in its sealed form. Does appear you will get more for
value. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So hopefully that answered it for you, Jake. We do appreciate the question, my friend. And I think that is going to do it for our questions this week. And guys, again, thank you so much for sending those in. You guys always send in some real bangers, and it gives us a great opportunity to have awesome conversations and really dig into these questions a lot more, because chances are, if you guys have them, a lot more people out there have these same questions as well. And that's really what we want to do. We want to create more knowledge, more education for people in this hobby. So we thank you guys truly for sending those in, and we will have more of these next week. We'll answer more of these next week. And again, guys, if you want to send those questions to us, a few different ways that you can do so. Easiest way is to send us an email at Pokemon.purveyors at, did I say at Pokemon Purveyors? Pokemon.purveyors at gmail.com. Sorry, it's getting late. It's probably really late for Jules. But yeah, you can send that email to us, Pokemon.purveyors at gmail.com. You can also direct message either Jules or myself over on our Instagrams. You can find me at Pokemon_Navigator, and you can find Jules at CollectingwithGules. We'll be happy to answer those questions, whichever way you send them to us. And then other than that, guys, just keep an eye out. As I said before, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us that like, give us that subscribe, show your support for the channel. And if you want to be notified when our videos go live, we always drop them as a premiere. So that's kind of a live event. But whenever those go live, you'll be notified. You'll know when the Pokemon Purveyors are coming at you with some hot information. And then if you're listening to us out on any of your other podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, any of the other podcasting platforms, we're everywhere now. Leave us a review, preferably a 5-star review. Only if we deserve it, though. Only if we deserve it. And that will help us climb the charts. It'll help more people find this podcast and find this information, which we're going to keep bringing it at you guys. We're having so much fun doing this podcast, and we look forward to it each and every week. Jules,
Yes.
Anything you got left for us, my friend?
That's pretty much it. That was a great episode. I truly think the conversation was very, very good. I think we gave some very precise information as well on some of these things. We use some of those awesome tools that we have at our disposal, such as eBay, our main tool for calculating those prices. But nonetheless, guys, we enjoy doing these podcasts for you guys every week. Just picture this. I'm Italian. It's as if you go to your grandparents' house. We call them nonnas, okay? And your nonna is pumping out lasagnas from those ovens so that you will never be hungry again. So guys, feed your appetite. Keep coming back. Watch these podcasts because we love making them for you. And we hope you guys enjoy them as well. Keep sending in those questions. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen.
As they say in Italy, that's amore.
That's amore.
Right,
There
Jules?
you go. Perfect way to end that one. Excellent.
All right, guys. Well, as we said, we will see you guys all next time. We will see you right here on the Pokemon Purveyors podcast. You guys take care, and we will see you next time.